And now for part two of WAMCast, episode 10, the long awaited top 10 list of. What are we calling this, sir? Restaurant dishes?
Restaurant dishes, fat guys and their food, something like that.
Favorite restaurant food items of all time, I suppose.
Yeah, stuff we like to stuff our face with and then feel horrible for 2 hours afterwards because we ate way too much food.
Exactly.
So, what did you have for your number 10?
Okay, so it's kind of hard to rank these for me, but number 10 is a bit of an oddball choice. We have a local Mexican restaurant here in good old Cortland called Garcia's,
Yes.
and I don't enjoy anything Mexican from there. What I do enjoy, however, is their chicken wings.
Okay.
So it's a bit weird, but I don't know. They do something just slightly different than any I've had. It's sort of like a sweeter buffalo style wing or something. I'm not really sure what it is, but yeah, it just clicks with me for some reason. It's just tasty.
Tasty. Tasty, delicious.
Yeah,
They make a pretty mean margarita there, too, from what I remember. So,
they're gigantic. I've never had one, but yeah, they're about the size of your head.
good times. Yeah, I'm a chicken wing connoisseur myself, and I actually do have that on my list. It's not my number 10, though. Yeah, I know. I've been to Garcia's. That was relatively new. That used to be where the old Terrace restaurant was. That was back in the day when you actually used to dress up and go out to eat. I remember going there a few times with my parents. It was kind of a nice place. But yeah, it's kind of weird just to see the evolution of it go from a place like that to just a random Mexican place.
Right.
Kind of weird, but
Because
that's good.
well,
Yeah,
yeah, because
yeah.
they
Go ahead.
really didn't change anything physically. Like they put up some decorations and stuff, but like physically, it's still the. It looks like a fucking '60s steakhouse or something.
Yeah, it does. It's kind of classy looking. Not that a Mexican restaurant can't be classy, but
Yeah.
it's just yeah, you're right. They didn't really change it. They put some, like you said, some decorations. But yeah, it's that same. You walk in and that's where like the hostess stand was. You can check your
Yeah.
coat kind of thing. It's really weird that they didn't really renovate it. Which I kind of like the fact they didn't renovate it because at least it kind of keeps some of what it used to be.
Yeah,
Um,
you can still step back in time a little bit. I think it was, I don't know if it's the only place, but it was certainly one of the only places also that ever had valet parking in Cortland.
Yep, that's right. You could pull right up, and they had that little lot around the back there. It's kind of weird that you mentioned chicken wings at a Mexican place, but there is a Mexican place down up in in and since there's a location in Schenectady, Albany, and Troy, New York. It's called Bombers, and they're basically like a burrito bar, and they make really good chicken wings there too. So it's
Nice.
kind of interesting that you picked a Mexican place that they just do chicken wings right sometimes. I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Interesting. Good choice. Anything else you wanted to add
No,
about them?
that's pretty much it. Chicken
Except
wings
that
all the
they're
way.
freaking delicious. Well, my original number 10 was actually a chicken dish as well. I actually replaced it recently, and this was the only real national chain restaurant I feel that was on my list. Actually, my number one is slowly becoming a national chain, which is kind of making me mad. But anyway, number 10, I originally had a dish called the Alice Springs Chicken from the Outback Steakhouse restaurants.
Huh.
I don't know what makes this dish so good, but they just have like a perfectly cooked chicken breast that's a decent size. They put like bacon, mushrooms, and cheese on it, and they give you a little honey mustard to dip in it on the side. And for some reason, I mean, I can't get steak at Outback. I have to get that dish.
Really?
However, I took it off because I actually found a better chicken dish, which is kind of along the same lines. There's a restaurant in Saratoga Springs. It's called the Old Bryan Inn. It's actually a pretty well-known place, very popular place to go. It was actually a tavern that was built circa Revolutionary War years. So it's a really, really old building. It's kind of the same thing. They haven't really changed it. It's like basically brick and mortar when you walk in there. And they have like a nice bar, and they have those really big, solid, like pewter beer steins hanging from the bar. I don't think they use them; they're just using them for decoration. But this place has superb food, and the chicken dish from there is the chicken cordon bleu, actually.
Nice.
And it's a moderately priced dish. It's about $20. But you get two huge chicken breasts, and of course, they use prosciutto for the ham, and it's almost like you have to use prosciutto now if you want to elevate the dish a little bit instead of using your run of the mill ham. You got to use
Right.
the prosciutto, and it's cooked perfectly every time, and they must season it some way. They're not going to ever tell you how they season it, but the chicken's like it's always cooked really well because how chicken can get tough. It's really moist. Um, it's they're just they that place is excellent. And like it's a really nice place to go. It's kind of fancy. You don't have to. It's not like dress up fancy, and it's really like I said, it's moderately priced. I mean, their dishes run from like $13 to $30, and you'll pay $30 for like prime rib or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I picked the chicken cordon bleu from the Old Bryan Inn,
So,
and I've gone there twice, and that's the only dish I've got. So
and you said
it's
that
pretty
that
good.
dethroned the Outback chicken for you?
Oh yeah, that knocked it out of the park. So I'm just gonna put Outback Alice Springs chicken as honorable mention from here on out. So,
Gotcha.
and that was the only chain I said. So, and I felt good about taking the chain restaurants off because you get decent food there, but you don't really, I don't
Right.
feel like they deserve my praise that much.
Well, yeah. Anytime you can find, at least, something, even if it was like you liked it just the same as the Outback one, feels like you should almost put the non-chain one on there by default.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Old Bryan Inn, they're always busy. They don't need, me to push it or anything like that. But I mean, it's a local one-stop restaurant. I mean, they don't have any other like that. So I feel like, it's almost like mom and pop,
Right.
compared to like the big box. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, those places are awesome.
yes.
Wow.
All right. So moving on, I'll go with my number nine
All right.
since I'm talking. Then you can go, and then you can go to your number nine. There was it's a sub shop. It was in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. As anybody who knows me well enough knows, my Grammy used to live in Delaware, and we would travel down there at least twice a year to visit. And there's a sub shop. Actually, she didn't live in Rehoboth Beach. She lived in a town next to it called Lewis, but the Rehoboth Beach area has it's like basically a big strip of just like restaurants, shopping. But there's a sub shop called Casapula's Subs, and it's like a really old family-owned Italian. It started out as like an Italian grocery store, and they were
Nice.
losing money, so they decided to make it into like a deli, and it took off ever since. And they have like amazing subs there, and those subs that I would always get and try different ones were their steak subs. Like I said, it's an Italian deli, so you could get like a decent, a sub with like capicola salami, something like that. But
Right.
I picked their steak subs. They made like really delicious like cheesesteak subs. They actually had a chicken cheesesteak sub, which was delicious too. But that was like the one place, no matter when, how long we were down there, we had to go to Casapula's to get a sub. Like it's just amazing. I mean, and you're talking like the old school Italian deli subs, like the huge roll. They have like the really thin shredded lettuce on it, stuff like that. So,
Delicious.
yeah, they were freaking awesome. And it kind of stinks because Grammy doesn't live there anymore, so we have like no reason to go to Delaware to get these subs. It's one of the things I think I miss the most from that, the Delaware experience, if you will.
Right.
But yeah, the subs there were amazing, and most notably the steak subs that just cooked perfectly, fresh ingredients, like it should be, and you got a bang for your buck. I mean, you got huge subs from there, so that's like some little dinky thing.
Right. That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
Uh,
I know. We should go there sometime just for the hell of it. Take a road trip, eat, come back.
I've got tomorrow off.
All right, I took today off actually,
I had today off too. Damn it.
nice. I know we could have done the podcast earlier, but we had errands to run. So,
Yeah.
anyway, back on topic here. What's your number nine?
Well, I just want to add to your thing. Like, I haven't. One thing I really love at like an Italian sub place is
Hmm.
the real thin sliced Italian roast pork.
Oh yeah. Whew.
I honestly haven't really. I know it's out there, but it's something that I don't like really remember to try unless it's like right in front of my face. So I haven't really found an awesome place to go to for that. But I bet they do a mean one of those.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I have
Um,
to ask my dad. He's probably had that because he loves that stuff too. So.
yeah, it's fantastic.
Yep.
My number nine is another local entry. However, it no longer exists. And I would venture to guess that you have this somewhere as well on your list. And it is none other than Monteleone's Pizza.
Yes. I
Because how could you not?
know, right? I mean, come on.
Um, I don't know. I mean, I don't unfortunately know a huge amount of the backstory, but I know that pretty much everyone I talked to who was around when they were open unanimously agrees that it was the hands down ultimate pizza in this area and beyond. Um, Speaking of bang for your buck, I remember being able to walk in there and their slices are pretty goddamn big
Yeah.
and pretty goddamn cheap. Um,
Yep.
and I don't know, something. I mean, that was just kind of a no nonsense pizza place. Just kind of remember being kind of drab, kind of a lot of brown, and just kind of no real decorations and plain tables and stuff. But damn, did they pump out just anything you can imagine in your brain, like the perfect New York City style pizza to be. That was it, in my opinion.
Hmm.
And I actually work now for the guy who owns my workplace, Harry Tony's. He used to work for Charlie Monteleone for like 20 years, and uh, you know, may or may not have taken some inspiration from there when him and his partner left to start a Pizza and More, also here in Cortland. But let
Yeah.
me just go on record and say that even though I work for those guys, it is not even close to being able to compare to what Monteleone's was.
Yeah. I actually did have Monteleones on there. They were on my number two. Because I actually,
Damn.
well, I had it at number two because pizza is probably like one of my all-time favorite foods, so I put that at number two.
Right.
And it was actually a tie with another restaurant. But I'll talk about that when we get to number two. But yeah, with Monteleones, what I remember fondly was when we were in 11th and 12th grade in high school, we could like leave the grounds and go on lunch on our lunch period if we wanted to. Of course, you had to be back at time or whatever. And one of the places we'd always go was Monteleone's Pizza because you could get two like huge slices of cheese pizza plus a soda for like 250. I mean, like how can you freaking beat that?
Right.
Um, and I remember when I first started eating pizza. I mean, I can remember like when I was a little kid, my parents would always order pizza from Monteleone's. Like they had that thin white garlic pizza that they loved, and they always ordered me like a small pizza for myself because I hated the garlic pizza until I got older. But yeah, and that's like the only pizza that I ever had. And until I mean, after a while, we started, we'd go to Pizza Hut every once in a while, stuff like that. But
Right.
when we ordered pizza at home to be delivered, it was always Monteleone's Pizza. Like there was not another place that we would even like not a Pizza and More. Frankly, I think a Pizza and More pizza sucks.
I
Sorry for everybody from Cortland that likes it.
totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a pizza connoisseur, man. Pizza's like one of my favorite foods, and I cannot stand Pizza and More pizza. So, but yeah, and that's what I remember about it. And yeah, there were definitely some rumors about why it closed down. I'm not going to get into what I've heard in the effort of not insulting anybody.
Right.
But yeah, it was sad when that place closed. Fortunately, I think it closed right around the time I left town anyway. So
Right.
whatever. But sorry for everybody that still lived there. And like I mean, you live in Cortland still too, so that would be awesome if there was a place like Monteleone's, but I have not found a place that could beat it anywhere locally anyway. So,
Agreed.
whew, good old Monteleone's.
Yep.
Good times. All right,
All right.
let's go
Well,
to number eight. What do you got for number eight there, buddy?
what is my number eight? My number eight is not. It's still somewhat local. We're kind of expanding outward a little bit. And it is good old Dinosaur Barbecue's brisket.
Mm,
I mean,
well,
it's tough to just narrow it down to one of their meats, but for me, the brisket kind of just edges out a little bit above everything else, just because I'm a brisket nut anyway.
mm-hmm. Actually, that's what I was alluding to about you kind of being a local place and now it's going national.
Oh, okay, right.
That's what I was. It actually, sorry everybody, I'm going to spoil my list, but Dinosaur Barbecue is actually my favorite restaurant of all time,
Damn it.
and that is number one on my list with what I get there. But I'll talk about mine in depth.
Right,
But
right.
you are correct about their brisket. Um, just a little side note before we continue. I did go to the one in Troy, New York, last weekend with my parents, and it showed all the places that they have one now. As you know, they started in Syracuse, they expanded to Rochester and Harlem, New York, and they opened the one in Troy. They've also opened one somewhere in Connecticut. They've opened one in Newark, New Jersey,
Right.
and I think there's another location. I can't remember where it was, and they have one coming soon. Get this, in Baltimore, Maryland, and Chicago, Illinois. So they are going
Wow.
like national. And I'm kind of like, man, because that used to be something that we had, and now we're not going to have it anymore.
Right.
I know years ago, John Stage actually sold a lot of control of the company to actually like a bigger company, and their idea was to immediately expand because they knew they had something good and they want to make as much money off as possible. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, go ahead. Do you like the brisket there?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, everything. It's hard to get something that's bad or even just acceptable in there. Um,
Yeah.
but I've been there. I really haven't been there a tremendous amount of times in my life. A handful, maybe five, and I would say four out of those five times I got some sort of like sampler platter, where you get a little like three different meats or something on it,
Yeah.
and brisket was on there every single time. Um, I think the first time
Yep.
I ever went there actually might have been with you and your dad, and I can't remember the
Um,
circumstances of that, but I'm pretty
I
sure.
think it was when I think it was when Grammy moved to Portland and you helped her move in.
Oh
And didn't we
yeah,
go up there for lunch with my uncle Rick? Yeah,
that's right.
because I
Yep.
believe you got the Trace Hombres platter, which usually has ribs, pulled pork, and brisket on it to sample.
Yep.
Oh, I know. Don't you tell me.
That's exactly it.
Yep.
Yeah, the brisket definitely. It's hard for me. Like I get brisket almost every time I go to a barbecue place, and
Hmm.
it's often dry. It's
Yeah,
often
that's not good. Yeah.
real like tough and just like I don't know. It's like they leave it sitting out or something. I don't know, but it was always just fucking melt in your mouth at Dinosaur.
Yep. Actually, I did have some brisket there on last Saturday, and it was delicious as usual. So,
And
yeah.
just as a side note, honestly, um, their barbecue chicken is probably the best I've had anywhere
Hmm.
as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and my dad always talks about, they're actually, they're basically known for barbecue, and their whole thing is that John Stage, when he started the restaurant, he took different cooking styles and flavors and stuff from different areas of the country because some places like they only do dry rub on
Right.
ribs, and other places are wet ribs, so like he just took a lot of different styles. But my dad actually said the best ribs that he gets from Dinosaur. I mean, we go in the restaurant; they're usually pretty good. The best time to get the ribs is when there's a state fair because they
Right.
like cook them outside immediately, and they're not just like what they cooked earlier in the day and they have some left over. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're
Right.
cooking them like basically to order at that point, and they're like fresh right off the freaking grill, or however they do it. So if you're ever wondering, go to the state fair and go to. Of course, that tent's like always
Yeah,
packed,
it's
of course.
always fucking insane with people.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't really think that. Oh, wow, the state fair, but yeah, they cook them outside and it's fresh. So that's the best time to get their ribs, actually, which is kind of weird because you want. I don't like eating outside to begin with, especially with like millions of people crowding around.
Right.
But yeah, that's a good choice, definitely. Indubitably, sir.
So what do you have for number 8 there?
My number eight are actually chicken wings, and they are from a little place in Clifton Park, New York, called Ravenswood. I do believe you went there with me one
It does sound
time
familiar.
before that. Yeah, it was for that concert that you went to for
Oh,
Striper.
right.
Yeah,
I actually didn't get to. I think I went there and then like I had like paid for like the pre-show meet and greet, so we had to pretty much leave as soon as we walked in, take me to that, and you guys went back there and I missed out
yeah,
unfortunately.
that's right. Because we took you. Yeah, because the place where the concert was is like a minute down the road. Yeah, I remember that because then me and your brother and Nicole Dan or whatever her last name is now ate there. Yeah, that's right. We were eating without you because you had to go to that thing. I do remember that now. I picked the chicken wings actually from Ravenswood. Um, because it's weird because I remember in Cortland a lot of the pizza places had pretty good chicken wings there. Like I know Pudgy's Pizza has good chicken wings. Pontillo's has good chicken wings. I never really felt like I had bad chicken wings, when I ate there. But it's weird, like the pizza shops around here where I live now, up in the greater capital region. I'm sure people are listening; they can probably point me to places. But a lot of the places I go to, the wings are just terrible. Like they're not
Right.
crispy enough, or they're like just really soggy, and they're just whatever. Um, but Ravenswood, every time I've gone there, I've had delicious wings, and they have really good flavors. They started out with they called it a buffacue, so it was like a half buffalo, half barbecue. Now they replaced it with they call them the 24 karat gold wings,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, they're basically like honey mustard barbecue hot sauce all in one, and they're freaking awesome. But every time I go there, they're cooked perfectly. They're not like too crispy where they're dried out. They're crispy enough, but they're not soggy.
Right.
I just love their wings there, and every time I go there, I got to get an order of wings. Like it doesn't matter like what we're doing. If it's lunchtime, I'm getting an order of wings. So whatever. Because I love chicken wings, and that's like one of the places that around here that's good. It's good every time. So yeah, I put those chicken wings from Ravenswood, Clifton Park. It's kind of weird where that place is located too. You kind of have to know it's there to go.
Right.
It's not like a place you're going to drive by and see and be like, oh, let's eat there, which I like about it as well. So yeah, that's what I picked.
I see.
Q. All right, let's go on to number 7. Yet again, another chicken dish for me. Chicken's like the everyman's meat, I guess. Number 7, I have the Dippin' Chicken from Doug's Fish Fry in Portland, New York. Actually, they started out in Skinny Atlas, didn't they? Wasn't that the first restaurant for Doug's Fish Fry?
Yep, absolutely.
Of course, we don't really go visit the highfalutin town of Skinny Atlas all that often, but they did open one in Portland. And that was really my go-to dish, and that's one of the places I always try to go to whenever I make a visit to Portland is Doug's Fish Fry. There's just something about that chicken, man. I think what they do is they use the cornmeal breading type that they put on the fish,
Right.
and they use it for the chicken, and they basically deep fry it, and it's like perfectly moist and delicious. And the only thing I hate about that place is like over the years, like every time I'd go back, it'd be like 20 cents more.
Yeah.
And the next time it'd be 20 cents more.
They
I think
raised
they
it up.
finally bottomed out by now, but yeah, it was really annoying.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that's what I picked. I picked the Dippin' Chicken from Doug's Fish Fry, number 7.
Well, I have wings from a Mexican place, so I can't really pick on you for chicken from a fish place, I suppose.
Exactly. And that's the weird thing. I like seafood and fish and stuff like that, but man, when I go to that place, I get the chicken.
Right.
It's really weird.
Well, I have some stuff from Doug's as an honorable mention, so I guess save that stuff for then.
Okay.
But that is an excellent choice. I mean, there's they pretty much everything they have there is great.
Yep.
So I suppose my number 7 would have to be it's called the Knuckle Sandwich. And
Oh, forgot about that.
from Beacon Bagel in Beacon, New York. And it's
Man.
It's one of those things that like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, I guess. Because I mean, it's when you break it down, it's a bagel of your choice with cream cheese of your choice, bacon, and put together and eaten as a sandwich. I think there's I can't remember if there were scallions on it or if I always got the scallion cream cheese. It might have been the cream cheese, but for some reason, every time I went in there, that was my go-to thing. They're just so goddamn good. Their bagels they make them right there in the place every day. It's one of the best, highest quality overall places I've ever been to. Just like spotlessly clean. The people are amazing who run it. Yeah, it's always delicious. But it's an example of another place that doesn't really do anything bad. But that was my favorite from them.
Yeah, I remember that. That it was a really small place too.
Yeah.
Compared to my favorite bagel place, which would be the Uncommon Grounds in Saratoga.
Right.
It's funny because I remember when you told me to get that. I remember that was freaking awesome. I never even would have thought, for whatever reason, to put that together. Just cream cheese and put bacon on it. So now when I go to Uncommon Grounds, I always order that. I get a bagel I like with a cream cheese I like with bacon. They don't call it that, and they don't really have it like a special or anything like that. But they don't do it as good as that knuckle sandwich down in Beacon Bagel, though. I mean, don't get me wrong, Uncommon Grounds is amazing, and they do great stuff. But just something about it, going to I guess where the roots are, of the knuckle sandwich.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny because when I ordered it the first time I came back here to Saratoga after I had it in Beacon, someone in line was like, "Oh, that's a really good idea." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I got it, and the idea from this place called Beacon Bagel down to Bay." And I was telling her all about it. Like, "Oh my god, yeah." Like we were just like buddies or something.
Well, they're a place that would be fully deserving of the success of a dinosaur barbecue type. I mean, they actually are expanding. Only within the town of Beacon. I think they're opening a second larger location, but I mean that's first starting in maybe 2007 or around there. Like they've come a long way really fast, and I can't think of more deserving people. They're awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Gonna miss that place.
Oh, I do every day.
Yeah, tell me about it. All right, let's go on to number six. What you got there?
Number six is yet another sandwich, um, made out of something that I think most people eat on its own, and is delicious on its own. But something about the way the Double O Grill does the crab cake hoagie is
Hmm.
just phenomenal for me. It's in Wappingers Falls, New York. Um, and yeah, like they're another place that does a lot of things really well. It's kind of hard to describe. They're sort of like a really swanky diner format, but
Hmm.
really high end food, really like period specific decor, and everybody's wearing formal, well, sort of formal server attire and things like that. But gigantic menu. But I pretty much I've been there probably 30 times. Um, I only lived in the area for just under 2 years, and I went to that place more than any other place down there. And
That was a go-to right there.
yeah, probably 20 of those 30 times I got the crab cake hoagie because it was just that good. To this day,
Mhm.
it's the best crab cake I've had anywhere. Now, I haven't had stuff. Uh, I haven't tried everything down in all the seafood hot spots and exhausted all that, but
Mhm.
I've tried some, and so far, Double O takes it.
Yeah, I remember we did. I did have that one time we went there. I think I've been there twice because I went there that time, the day that you actually found the apartment the first time you moved there,
Right.
and then one time when I came down to visit, we went there. I do remember that. And there's actually a restaurant in Albany that is the spitting image of that place. It's called the Standard. It's in the Crossgates Mall, and it's just exactly how you described it. It's like a swanky diner. I kind of feel like you'd see like the 60s or like the 50s or 60s, you see like Frank Sinatra,
Yeah,
at a place
exactly.
like that, you know
Right.
what I mean? And they actually have the Standard has a crab cake BLT, which is basically the same thing as your crab cake hoagie. I mean, I think the hoagie is a little bit different, but it's like the same thing almost.
Yeah,
So
there's avocado on the hoagie, but other than that, it sounds exactly the same.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I do remember that. That was a good choice. I actually forgot about that place until you mentioned it. I was like, oh crap. And we always forget about the Standard up here. Whenever we're thinking of someplace to go out to eat, we always forget that. Oh yeah, there's the Standard. We can go there. That's really good, but we never do it. So
Yeah, even with that name.
yeah, no, it's the Standard. Duh. Go.
Next time.
Um, yeah. Well, my number six is actually seafood as well, which is kind of quinky dink.
Right.
Um, it's actually I couldn't really pick anything specific because it's been a really long time since I've been there, and I don't really remember everything that I got down to a T. But it's the Hyman's Seafood Restaurant, and it's in Charleston, South Carolina. Um, it's basically this place has been voted the top one of the top seafood restaurants on the East Coast for years and years and years and years. And I was fortunate enough to live down there for about a year when I was in the Navy, and I went there a few times. And basically, you go into this place, and they'll put a plaque on the table of like a famous person that's been there. And
Right.
usually, if a famous person goes, they'll sign like a ceramic plate for them, and they'll hang them up around the restaurant. So it's a very like it's basically a hot seafood spot.
Right.
It's really you have to wait every time you go there. But basically, you can choose different dishes. Like you could pick a dish that has like fish, and then you can pick like from option two, you pick like scallops or something like that, and they have like 20 different ways you can cook it. And every time I've gone there, I mean, I've been there maybe 3 or 4 times, and it's like it's superb. Just everything, it's always good. And one thing of note is actually their hush puppies. They're probably some of the best hush puppies I've ever had in my entire life. Like they're so good.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's really nothing more I can say about it. If you're ever there, if you ever go to Charleston, South Carolina, and there's one place you can only eat at one place, that's where I would pick to go if you're a seafood person. So, yeah, there's really not much more I can say about it. Look it up. It's good stuff.
So you're saying they should
Um,
rename it In or Around My Mouth then?
yeah, in or around my mouth, seafood company, Charleston, South Carolina, do it. Well, I'm not really sure where the hymen came from either. It's got to be someone's name,
Right.
hopefully. Uh,
I bet there's a story there.
probably, and it's all about seafood. Draw your own conclusions. Um, yeah, so that's my pick. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure you've never been there, so we should do
I
that sometime.
very unfortunately I have not. but
Mhm.
it's safe to say I would put a hurting on them.
Yeah, you would, and it's just like a great atmosphere too. I remember I went there one time by myself, and I went to the bar because I didn't want to wait, and I ordered food and ate at the bar like some loner. Didn't even care. That's like one of the only times I never cared to go to, or I didn't care that I went someplace by myself. But that's the thing, like the bartender was friendly and chatted every now and then, so I didn't feel like I was a complete loser. I actually got to talk to somebody that was there, so that was cool. But
Yeah,
yeah, we should definitely hook it up sometime there. We
totally,
only live once, so.
absolutely.
Cool. All
Uh,
right, let's go on. My number five. Yet again. Okay, I swear this is the second to last chicken dish that I can think of. Okay. I mean, it's ridiculous. I didn't even think about it until I looked at this. I'm like, man, there's like five chicken dishes on here. My number five is the fried chicken from a little place called Hattie's in Saratoga Springs. Um, it. Uh, I, I want some right now, actually. Now that I thought about it, basically it's they cook it Southern style, and they actually have a lot of those side dishes that you would think you'd find in the South. Like collard greens and cucumber and tomato salad, stuff like that.
right.
It's definitely a hot spot in Saratoga, and it's definitely on the map. If you recall, Bobby Flay, when he had that Throwdown show,
Yep.
did a throwdown episode with Hattie's Chicken, the chef there, and actually Hattie's beat Bobby Flay in the taste test. So that's got to tell you something there. I mean, I'm not really a huge Bobby Flay fan, but for having a nationally televised show and he lost, that's kind of saying something.
Yeah,
Um,
I remember that one.
it's actually it's actually kind of surprising Bobby Flay hasn't really opened up anything up here that I know of, because I know he comes here a lot in summer for the horse racing. I think he actually owns a couple horses. I'm
Naturally.
just making shit up. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I think I heard it somewhere. But yeah, I know you've gone to Hattie's. You went there that one time before we went to the Motley Crue concert. So
Yep.
yeah, it was delicious. I mean, they do it right.
I actually
The
have
other thing
that.
is, go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. I was gonna say I actually have that as an honorable mention.
Oh, cool. Um, Yeah, and the only thing I don't like about that place is that it's really small, so you're like eating on top of the table next to you almost. But
Yeah,
that's good stuff.
gotta cram
Good
them in.
stuff. Yeah,
Well, it's because they do like seatings, right? They don't really do like they're not open all the time. They're open specific hours, right?
yeah. I think it's something weird. It's like they're only open from like 4 to 10 in the afternoon, or well, 4 in the afternoon to 10 at night. They did open kind of like a fast food style place. It's up on the strip, just north of Saratoga in the Wilton area where like the mall is and the restaurants and stuff are.
Yeah.
And it's still pretty decent there. Like if you want some Hattie's chicken and you don't want to wait in line or sit in a cramped place, you can go up to that place. It's not quite the same because they kind of mass produce it up at that place, but it's still pretty good. So
Yep, definitely good.
that's all I have to say about that.
What was that? Number five?
Five.
My number five is actually the legendary Woody Allen sandwich at the Carnegie Deli.
Yeah, that's definitely on my honorable mentions. Boom.
Uh, well, I mean, it's impossible not to place that, pretty high on the list anyway. But I think especially recently I moved it up because I had such a negative experience at the deli here in Cortland yesterday.
Of course you did.
Yeah. Well, you familiar with the downtown deli, or as they've rebranded themselves, the deli downtown for some reason.
Which makes less sense. I
Right.
don't. Yeah.
Well, it's just
Deli downtown. Sorry.
it's frustrating because they have all this decor and everything that like yeah pushes Manhattan in your face. All these photos of the city and all these references to it with their sandwich names and their menu and stuff. Um, but it's nothing like a Manhattan deli,
No.
like
No.
by any stretch of the imagination. I asked yesterday. I got a whole sandwich. Um, I think it was the base price for the whole sandwich. I believe is $10.
Mm.
Um, and I specifically asked for double meat and extra cheese. I was hungry that day. But
Yeah.
what I got was, I mean, you remember the Woody Allen is like the size of your head.
Yeah, it's at least a foot high.
Like this, even with the double meat and everything, This thing I got yesterday was no joke, maybe 2 inches thick. I mean,
Bush
with
League.
slaw and everything on it. I mean, like, so it cost me, I don't know, something like $12.50 by the time it was all said and done, just for that sandwich. And the Woody Allen sandwich I remember getting was like $18 at the time, which is
Yeah.
only $6 more than what I had yesterday, and it is easily, I want to say, easily 4 or 5 times as big.
Yep.
But not only that, the quality there is just fantastic. Like, you walk in and you can tell they're making everything right there. They've got fucking corned beef steaming, and they've got matzo balls boiling, and it's the real deal.
It is the real deal. I mean, you can watch them slice the meat for your sandwich. Like,
Right.
it's not like meat they sliced and put in a trough and sits there all day. They slice it for your sandwich to order. I mean,
Right.
you can tell hands down right there. That's like primo. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
They slice it and they make it. Like, they do their own corned
Mm-hmm.
beefs and everything. It's like this place just gets it off of a truck from Boar's Head or whatever.
I know. I was gonna say, is it Boar's Head?
I honestly don't even know if it's really Boar's Head. It's probably something less. I know that there's another deli in town on Central Ave that specifically uses Boar's Head, but Boar's Head has nothing on Carnegie Deli stuff.
Yeah, I'm not even sure why I didn't put Carnegie Deli in like my top 10. I think I was more. I don't know. I don't know why it's only honorable mention. I faux pas on that one. But yeah, you're right. I agree with everything you say. I mean, downtown Delhi can just suck it. Like, whatever. Like, that's just terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Woody Allen. I believe when we went the last time, it was like $17.99. I think for that sandwich.
Right.
And it's worth every penny of that. And you think, well, almost $20 for a sandwich? You're nuts. No, that thing is it's like half pastrami, half corned beef that they make there.
Right.
We emphasize that, and it's like at least a foot high, and it's two halves that are a foot high.
Exactly. Yeah, it's absolutely worth every penny.
Yep. I mean, that's straight up. That's old New York Jewish deli right there. And even their cheesecake was delicious. Did we have cheesecake that time? I don't remember.
I think you did. I tapped out halfway through that fucking sandwich. I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna be a big dog, and I got my ass handed to me.
Well, I remember the second time we went, we got one and shared it. We paid like the extra $5 to share. So like we had, and that was perfect.
That was much smarter, yeah.
Yeah, that was much smarter. I also remember we went to breakfast there the next day too, and that was delicious.
I forgot about that. Yeah, it has a fantastic omelet.
Yeah, we had a corned beef pastrami omelet. Not that we didn't have enough corned beef pastrami the night before, but well, it was cool because the Carnegie Deli, their one downfall obviously is the space.
Absolutely.
And I mean, you literally sit next to somebody else that you don't know. I mean, it's not like they're a foot away. It's like your leg is touching their leg, kind of thing, But I love that about the breakfast the next day. There was hardly anybody in there, and we like stretched out like on a table. I remember I had my feet up on another chair, like I fucking own that place, Yeah, that was pretty good. Jeez, Carnegie Deli, man.
I mean, if you're not used to we both come from pretty small towns where you're not really going to have that experience, but the first time for me anyway was a little bit of a, I don't want to say a culture shock, but I mean, it's somewhat, I guess. But like, what's really cool about being crammed in like that, once you get past the I don't know, awkwardness or whatever, is that like it forces you to interact with people in a way that just really doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So you can kind of become, half an hour, 45-minute friends with somebody and share like a random story with a stranger and leave the better for it.
Yeah, well, I remember that's exactly what happened. And usually the conversation starts with like a holy shit, like what is that? When they put it on the table. But I remember because we went to both times we went there. Well, the one time was the Rangers game. The other time was we had a friend went to a birthday party. But yeah, I remember we had our Rangers stuff on. He's like, oh, you like the Rangers? Go to the game, and you talk about hockey for a little while, which for some reason we have not done on this podcast yet. So put that on your to-do.
Oh, it's coming
at some point. But but yeah, you're right. It does kind of force you to interact. And people think like, oh, New York City, everybody has an attitude problem. Like, not really.
Nah.
The people were friendly enough that we talked to. They were probably local people, or who knows.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think also that's kind of a built-in. The seating arrangement is kind of a built-in insurance policy against that because, only the most dedicated of assholes is really going to want to maintain their assholishness, like sitting a centimeter away from somebody.
Yeah, right. Keep it under control, assholes out there.
That's right.
So that was your number 5, right? Number 5. Man, I want to go to these places now.
We're halfway there.
Beam me up, Scotty. Jeepers. All right, what do you got for number four?
Oh, number four is actually the end of my unique entries on the list, as 3 through 1 are all from the same place.
Oh, nice.
So
Hmm.
number four is, it's too hard for me to limit it to any one dish, even though I usually get something specific when I go. But everything I've had from there is fucking amazing. So it is anything from Tito Santana Taqueria in Beacon.
Hmm.
Uh, just, I mean, it opened probably 6 months before I moved out, but what an amazing place. I mean, uh, just it's everything you want when you walk into somewhere to order food. Um, it's just professional from top to bottom. It's, you can tell they put in uh, a lot of effort into the place. It looks great inside. It's always spick and span clean. The owner and everybody who works there are super friendly. And the quality of the food is just perfect. I mean, like if you
Hmm.
want a real taco, I mean, ironically, it's I'm not sure if he is, I'm not sure exactly his nationality, but I know he is Middle Eastern. I know he's Muslim, but he makes
Hmm.
amazing, amazing tacos. Um, and to prove how great their customer service is, I moved out of Beacon at the end of 2011, and I went back to pick up the rest of my belongings that were still stored there in mid 2013. And when
Hmm.
I walked in, because I had to go there when I was in town, I mean, I just couldn't
Right.
not go there.
Yeah.
So I took my dad there before we left. And as soon as I walked in the door, the guy goes, "Hey, Claude, right?" I hadn't been
Wow.
there in 2 years, and I looked totally. My hair was like infinitely longer. I had glasses. I weighed different. I mean, it was just crazy. I was just floored.
Yeah.
Um,
That is crazy. Wow.
and the next thing out of his mouth was, "Oh, you moving back?" And it was like, it's crazy. I mean, I've been, I went there a decent amount, but nothing. I mean, maybe 10 or 12 times. I mean, nothing insane.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, just it's hard not to, maybe it skews my opinion or whatever, but I challenge anybody to go there and tell me the food is bad, because
Okay.
they do. What I usually get is I'm a sucker for fish tacos, and they have they offer it in grilled or fried fish, and it's great either way. But the fried is just amazing.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah, they just make everything in there. They make everything from scratch. Real good stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say, unfortunately, I don't think I ever went there. Obviously, I don't think I even visited you in the last 6 months that you were there. But
Right.
huh, cool.
Well, I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, it used to be a hot dog place called
Hmm.
the Barking Dog. I don't know if we had ordered from there a few times. I don't know if it was any time when you were there or not. But
I do remember the name. You might have said something about it,
yeah.
but yeah,
But damn, what a great place.
yeah, yeah. I know. I love those like local places like that. Like you're not going to see Tito Santana's Taquerita anywhere else unless it's
No.
down there or whatever you said. So
Shit, I
it's
would.
pretty cool. Yeah.
It's every day I like fight the urge to call them and be like, "Hey, you interested in opening a Cortland branch and letting me run it?"
It'll do well up here. Well, college town, that kind of food, people are like, college kids are like, that's a little bit cheaper usually. Like,
Right.
when you go places, Mexican food usually is not that expensive, so
Yeah, it's
that
not.
could possibly work. I don't know.
Right.
Pretty cool. So what do we have? Four, I
Yeah.
said.
You
Number
got.
four. Number four for me is it's a place in Albany. It's called the Albany Pump Station. They have their own brewery. I believe the company is the C.H. Evans Brewing Company. But they
Mm.
have an amazing burger. It's called the Pump Station Burger, and you pair that with a pint of their award-winning kick-ass brown ale, and it's like just this freaking delicious meal.
No.
It's probably the best burger that I've ever had anywhere else. I'm sure there are burger joints out there that are equally or better, equally good or better, but I cannot even think of a place um, that holds a candle to this burger, and I don't even really know why. I think actually, you know what? I think they make the burger with that beer in it
Oh, okay.
as part of the meat. Like they mix the beer in, and if you pair it with the beer, you're good to go. But yeah, that's a lot of it is it's ambiance. You go to this place and it's like a big warehouse, and you can see the huge vats of whatever beer in the back that they're brewing.
Right.
But yeah, they have like a really diverse, delicious menu, and it's one of those. Yeah, it's just one of those one local places, and it's just that burger is amazing. It's like juicy. That they put like you can add stuff to it or take it off, but just even if you just get the plain burger with like some sides on it, it's really good. But you got to pair it with a beer. And it's really just a great place to go. Great food, great atmosphere, great alcoholic beverages. What's that? So
Well,
yeah,
I
I
have a
can't.
question for
Mhm.
you. Is
Sure.
that the actual name of the beer, or is that just how you were referring to it? Kick
Nope,
ass.
that is the name. Kick
Okay,
ass brown ale. Yeah.
gotcha. Those are that's a boastful title right there.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty kick ass. So
Nice.
you could actually go in there and get like a little beer sampler. You get like I think like 7 different beers that they brew,
Right.
and they bring out a little card that tells you what each one is, and it's pretty neat. Probably next time you come up here, I would suggest going there.
Sounds tasty.
Yeah, it is. It's delicious. So all right, my number 3, and I swear this is the last chicken dish I have on here. And only because it's one of my favorite foods of all time is chicken parmesan,
Oh, of course.
and it comes from it used to be the best chicken parmesan at this place. Now it is kind of mediocre, but it was at the Hollywood restaurant in
Ah,
Portland.
right.
I think what made the chicken parm there so good because it used to be a really huge piece of chicken.
Yep.
It was fried and baked probably, but the way they make it is the way that I feel like you're supposed to make chicken parm. You take the chicken and then you put the cheese on it and then you cover it with sauce.
Yeah.
Because the problem happens when you put the sauce on it first and cover it with cheese, when you go to slice it with your knife, the sauce squirts out everywhere
Yeah.
because the layer of cheese that is melted on it is conducive of that. So that was like the one and only place that I'd ever been to that made it like that, where it was like the chicken, the cheese melted to the chicken, and then the sauce covering it, and then you just you cut it, you're good.
Right.
No one can see me, but I'm doing choppy hands here. You cut it and you're good. But this was one of those restaurants that unfortunately for me was always a favorite place of mine to go, and I think that their standards have fallen a little bit over the years.
I concur.
Yeah, we talk about like Doug's Fish Fry. Every time I go there, they're the same. There's nothing. They don't like. I mean, they might have raised the prices a little bit, but their food's the same. Sometimes you get, you get at least the same amount of food every time you go there. They don't like take food away, and it's like you get a smaller portion. But yeah, unfortunately, I feel like the Hollywood's one of those places, like I just said, their standards have dropped a little bit, and unfortunately, they don't have the best chicken parm anymore, but they used to.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's a little unfortunate. I think you probably trace it back to probably shortly after. Remember, they had that big fire in their kitchen, and they had to close down
Yep.
to like renovate for a while. I think after that, a few years after that, it started to. I think a new owner took over. I know a lot of their food isn't even made there anymore. They like order food delivered to them, and they just like heat it up basically, or some stupid thing like that. But yeah, that was my number 3.
Yeah. See, I have a love-hate relationship with those guys as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really unique place. Everybody should go there at least once just to take it all in. But yeah, definitely falling from grace.
Well, that place is like a throwback to
Right.
old Cortland. Like what Cortland used to be. And it's almost I find it to be almost like a little microcosm of Cortland itself. Like it's so
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
It's like a decadent. It was a nice restaurant to go to, and it was great food. It was always packed, and then now it's kind of like you go there on a Friday night, and maybe there's like 5 other people in there. I don't even know how they stay afloat. But
Yeah. It's very crazy.
you know, yeah.
Huh. That's a good pick. I didn't
All right.
even. I forgot all about
Mm-hmm.
chicken parm.
Yeah, well, that's like one of my favorite foods. Like the top 4 are like my favorite foods: burgers, chicken, pizza, and barbecue.
Right.
So, or chicken parm, pizza, and barbecue. So,
Oh, it makes sense. Actually, I don't have a burger on my list either. Now that I think about
mm.
it, and
I'm
that's
very picky about that. If I don't make it myself.
right.
I'll tell you though, one of the best bangs for your buck with burgers in my mind is still Five Guys. Like I love Five Guys burgers, and they're like $5.
Yeah, I'll give you that. They're pretty excellent most of the time, anyway. I don't know. I
Yeah,
think
most of the time. I've had a couple I'd say like 85% of the time I go there, it's fine.
Yeah.
But all
All
right,
right.
sir. So your 3, 2, and 1 are all the same place, huh?
They're
Let's
all from
do
the
it.
same restaurant. It's just that good for me, and it's real hard to even pick between them. Um, but they're from a Szechuan Chinese restaurant in Philadelphia,
Huh.
in the old city area of Philadelphia, called Han Dynasty.
Okay.
And I got turned on to it when I moved down to Pennsylvania with Jess, and her parents loved it, and so they took us there, and it was just, I mean, there was no going back. Um, because it's Szechuan, it's kind of specific, and it's super super spicy. But it's not spicy in like the way most American palates I feel are used to. Like it's not like a
Mhm.
jalapeno type spice. Um, I mean, there's a lot of different types of spice going on, but they use these things called Szechuan peppercorns, which are like sort of like a cross between like a crushed red pepper flake and a clove. So it's spicy but sort of numbing at the same time. It's kind of hard to explain, but like
Yeah.
it's super addicting.
Huh.
And just the quality level, the attention to detail, um, the overall experience is just like right up there with the best experiences I've ever had. And my number three is their double cooked fish.
Huh.
Um, I'm not even totally sure what type of fish it is, but I know it's fucking amazing. It's some kind of like white fish, but um, they do like the way their menu is. They offer a bunch of different styles, and they give you like basically chicken, pork, beef, whatever fish within those styles. And the double cooked style, I'm not sure like I know frying, like wok frying is involved. I'm not sure what the second method is or first or whatever order they do it in, but I know it has leeks in it. It's got black beans, it's got chili oil. Um, I don't know, it just comes out just like
Hmm.
perfect. I can't even really explain it. It's like a slight, it's not even really breading. There's like almost like a crust on it, but it's so like subtle. You can't even really compare it to anything else. It's just fucking phenomenal. So that's my number three.
Yeah. That's a yeah. My reaction to that was genuine surprise. Like I've never heard of anything like that before. Even just called something like that. Like
Right.
when he said it, though, the first thing I thought of was like twice baked potato for some reason. I don't know why, but it was really weird. Yeah, that sounds awesome. I did go to Philadelphia once. Actually, a place of theirs is going to be. It will be on my honorable mention, but it was not any kind of Chinese restaurant.
Right.
But that's pretty cool. Yeah.
So what do you
I mean,
have for three? Oh, sorry.
yeah, I did three actually. Yeah, you're
Oh, wait, you
chicken
did?
parm from Hollywood.
That
Yeah,
was three?
good
Oh, yeah,
stuff.
that's right. All right. Well, do you want me to go to number two then?
Sure. What's the number two? Well, it's the same place, so
Same
I'm
place.
intrigued now.
Same
If
place.
I
Let's
ever go back there,
let's take a trip around the menu. Uh,
yeah.
so from their fish to number two is it's actually an appetizer item.
Uh-huh.
It's called pork belly in sweet garlic chili oil sauce.
Huh.
And if you've never had pork belly, like a lot of people are kind of apprehensive to try it because it's essentially fatty bacon, but
Right.
much thicker.
Yeah.
So there's more fat and stuff to contend with, but when you cook it right, I mean it's not overpowering. It all
Yeah.
melts together very nicely. So if you've never had it, whoever's listening, like this is the fucking way to go.
Mhm.
It might have been the first time I ever had it, and I don't know, it's just fantastic. Um,
It blew your mind.
it is. It's just the right amount of sweet and spicy, and the pork is cooked so perfectly that like the fattiness just kind of melts into the sauce. So it's not. I mean, of course, it's not. None of this is really health food. um,
No.
but the way it's cooked, it does not make you feel like, oh my god, I'm eating like pure fat here. It's just I don't know what to say besides masterfully done.
Yeah. Is that like fat back? Is that the same thing as pork belly? Have you
kind
heard of
of,
that?
kind of,
Okay.
yeah. I think fatback is an even fattier cut.
Yeah, I just remember that from a Jim Gaffigan skit or something, but because he does this whole like on one of his stand-ups, he did a whole like 20-minute thing on bacon, and then he just threw in fat back on there for some reason. He's like fat back. It was just really funny. He's like, yeah, you just sound like a creepy uncle or something if you like fat back. I don't
Well, it's
know.
true. I mean,
But
that's just a funny word anyway.
yeah, I know fat back. Like it's what we like picked on a kid about in school or something. I don't know. Hey, we call that kid fat back.
Well, I
No,
mean,
that's pretty cool though. I wouldn't even have thought like a. Well, I guess Philadelphia is kind of known for a lot of multicultural, eclectic, you know,
yeah,
things. I guess.
I didn't really realize that until I was down there more
Yeah, it's
frequently,
really
but
weird.
it really is like another pretty major, market for the high-end culinary world.
Yeah, and you think of it as Philadelphia. It's like the all-American city. It's the city of brotherly love. It's like where a huge part of our country's independence started there. With Independence Hall and like all that stuff. But yeah, it really is kind of it has that like it's like that USA side to it. Then it's like the multicultural. So you know what I mean? It's a very interesting city.
Yeah,
To be honest with you, the only
definitely.
thing that yeah, I'm sorry guys, but Philadelphia sports fans are terrible.
Oh,
They're just
absolutely.
awful people. They're probably the worst fans I think out of all of them. Close, it's a tie between like them, Boston, and Detroit.
Yeah,
But yeah, Philadelphia is an interesting city, and I think it's kind of interesting that you have a Chinese restaurant, from Philadelphia as your number one. That's pretty cool, or
right.
your three through one basically.
Yeah.
I'll do my number two real quick. I mean, get to your number one and my number one. My number two is pizza. We already talked about Monteleone's, and the other place, which is really weird, it's actually a place called Bambinelli's. It's like an Italian family-run place, and it's in Atlanta, Georgia. They had the only reason why this is still on my list is because the one time I had it, I think I was like 12 years old.
Yeah.
My dad and I had gone down to Florida um, well, we didn't go. My dad had like a training class he had to go through for 2 weeks, and I went down with my dad. And I stayed like in the hotel while he was at school. He came back and get me. We'd all eat at these great places. But on the way down to Florida, we stopped at his childhood friend lived in Atlanta. His name's John Burns. Um, and we went there, and we stayed at his house for like a day or two just to visit. And I remember we were like, "Well, where are you gonna go for eat?" And we're like, "Oh, let's go get some pizza." And like, "Oh," he's like, "We know this great restaurant." And I remember saying to my dad, and we're talking, this is like over 20 years ago. I was like, "This is the best pizza that I've ever had." I mean, it
Really.
was like really. I mean, I thought it was better than Monteleone's at the time because, like I said, I lived to eat Monteleone's pizza.
Right.
But it's tied because I only had it once. But I can still remember to this day how good that pizza was, and me saying that. So I mean, that's gonna tell you something. I mean, I don't know if it's changed over the years. It's not like a place that obviously I go to all the time. I went there once. Um, so yeah, it was that was my number two. Was the pizza, Monteleone's in Cortland and Bambinelli's in Atlanta.
Damn. I
It's
mean,
really
it's
weird.
pizza that made a 20-year impression on you from eating it
I don't,
once. I mean, that's.
how is that even possible? Like, it's a one time I had that. It was crazy. Whew. All right, what's your number one, buddy?
All right. So, in lieu of a drum roll, I mean, yet another dish
Yeah,
from good old Han Dynasty. Um, it's called Dan Dan noodles.
Dan Dan noodles.
I'm kind of a noodle freak in
Mm-hmm.
general, and just because there's so much, I don't know, so much you can do with a bowl of noodles to make them delicious and filling and all that. It's like endless, ways you can do things with them. But I don't know, the way they do it there is like you just want to sit down and just tell them to keep the bowls coming because you could just you just keep shoveling it in your mouth, and you just want to, as the first bite is in your mouth, like you're already trying to shovel the next one in.
Keep
Uh,
them coming, and I want a side of fat back
yeah,
with it. Let's
exactly.
go.
It's just so goddamn good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of simple. Um, I think they're egg noodles, like like lo mein style noodles. I'm not sure if they make them on premises, but they taste like they could.
Hmm.
Um, they make them at your table as well. Kind of like you in certain Mexican restaurants, you'd get guacamole mashed up right there at the table. Um, They put them together at the table, and they there's like this ground fried pork in it. Just like some crazy good sauce. It's like the perfect combination of sweet and spicy.
Mm.
Scallions. I think there's like a peanut butter element in there, but it's not too overpowering.
Yeah.
Plenty of that. Those Szechuan peppercorns I mentioned. Um, I'm sure there's many other things that go into it, but it's just so goddamn good. I don't know.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
amazing, and it's not. It's like $8 for a pretty generous. Um, kind of. It's like family style there, so pretty much everything is meant to be shared.
Yeah.
So it's pretty generous portions, and they do everything on like a scale of 1 to 10 heat wise. And
Hmm.
these are at a 7, but I'm
Wow.
telling you,
Okay.
you could still shovel them in. It's just goddamn good, and that's my number one right now.
Nice. Well, it's kind of funny that like your number one dish is something like you said. It's so simple and it can be done up so many different ways.
Right.
That's pretty neat. I actually did have a noodle dish as one of my honorable mentions too, so that's pretty cool. Um,
Hmm.
my number one is the good old dinosaur barbecue, which we've already talked about.
Oh, right.
Barbecue is probably my favorite food of all time. And I think that's the best place I've ever had it. I mean, I've been to some places in the South, I've been to some places here and there. I think Dinosaur just does it right, and I think it's because they, mix their styles and everything. But um, the two dishes I had on there as a tie. One I mentioned already was that Tres Hombres that had the sample of like the pulled pork, the brisket, and the ribs. And the thing that stinks, I went to Dinosaur Saturday, as I've mentioned before, and they didn't have that on the menu in Troy. They had the Tres Ninos, which was the smaller portion of the Tres Hombres.
Uh,
So I'm not sure if Dinosaur across the board took that off their menu or just the one in Troy because I know that the menu differed a little bit. Like Troy didn't have, the ass kicking chili as a side
right.
when Syracuse did. But I'm not sure if they took it off the menu or not. Which if they did, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of sad. But they still have the Tres Ninos. But probably my number one favorite thing there is actually featured on the Man versus Food episode. Then when they went to Syracuse that Adam Richmond did, it was the pork sket sandwich,
Yes.
and that actually has your beloved brisket on it.
Right. Right. Right.
But basically, it's like a brisket sandwich. I mean, they pile it thick. I mean, it's a good 8-inch thick sandwich, I would say. They pile it with the brisket. They put some jalapenos, some cheese. They put their coleslaw, and that's like one of the only places I like coleslaw too, because I hate coleslaw, but I
Yeah.
will eat dinosaur barbecue coleslaw for some reason. And on top of that, they top it with pulled pork. So I mean, this is like your old cliched double bypass in a bun, whatever. But it's just this mouth watering sandwich of meat, and it's just the meat's so delicious and it's crazy. Um, but yeah, that was my number one was the pork sket sandwich from Dinosaur Barbecue, just nudged above the Tres Hombres, but both got the brisket. Yeah, it's all about the brisket.
Absolutely. Sad day if they got rid of the Trace Hombres.
Yeah, I mean they do have the Tres Ninos, which is a petite portion of all those things, but I want the full portion,
Hell yeah.
yo. Yeah, it was pretty cool when we went. Actually, my parents got the sweetheart deal for two, which is an entire rack of ribs plus like four sides. And
Damn.
they literally brought out like a cookie tray or like a baking tray with this huge rack of ribs on it, and they just plopped it right down between them. I was like, nice.
Well,
So
that's a fucking visual statement.
yeah, I know, right? Oof. I mean, it's like so. It's not even like fancy schmancy or anything. It's just like this tray of
Did
ribs. Like eat it.
they get a T-shirt at the end?
Yeah, right. I know that'd be pretty cool. They sell T-shirts there, but they're not going to give anything away. So
You bastards.
yeah, those jerks. Yeah. So that's our list. Do you want to just do the honorable mentions real quick? How many do you have? How many honorable mentions do you have? I had three.
I have, well, technically 3 as well, but two of them are two different things at the same place, so
Hmm.
like they're kind of tied or whatever. But yeah, 3 technically.
Yeah. Well, I had the Carnegie Deli. We already talked about that at length, so we can just cross that one off right
Right.
now.
What do you have? Is it just the deli or is it?
Well, yeah, I've only had the Woody Allen.
Okay, right.
The 4 times I've been there. But like, yeah, their breakfast was really good too. Like I said, I don't know why I didn't put that on the top 10. I just kind of feel like I don't know. I really love pastrami. That's probably one of the best meats ever invented, I think. But in corned beef. But yeah, I've only had that Woody Allen sandwich, and we had the breakfast that one time. So I mean, like, what else is there to get there? I mean, I'm not going to get turkey,
Right.
you know. But I mean, it's a Jewish deli for crying out loud. You got to get corned beef and pastrami and stuff like that. So.
Yep.
Mm.
All right. Are you gonna go through all three, or you want to keep?
Yeah, I'll do it real quick.
Okay.
The noodle dish I was talking about was actually the pad thai. They have it at this restaurant called the Sushi Thai Garden. They have one in Clifton Park and in Saratoga. If you do like, sushi and noodle dishes and stuff like that, you might want to check it out sometime when you come up here. But yeah, the pad thai is delicious. It's really cheap. Like you said, it's only like $8. Same thing here.
Yeah.
Obviously not quite the sensory overload that you had or whatever. But it's a really good dish. And it's really cheap, and I've been there a few times. I mean, sushi's sushi. I mean, it's really, to me, it's not that much different anywhere I go. But yeah, they had a pretty good dish called the pad thai there, and the third one was a restaurant in Philadelphia. Actually, it's called the Morning Glory Cafe, where we went a couple times at breakfast when I went there with my parents.
Right.
Delicious.
Oh.
They had amazing coffee. I remember we had like this thing called like monkey bread. It was like French toast with like bananas and walnuts and like caramel on it and stuff. It was ridiculously good. But they had really good coffee. They made their own ketchup there. Like they made it from scratch and put it in like jars on the table.
Awesome.
I would say it's kind of like a green place, and what I mean is like hippie-ish.
Yeah.
But I mean, because you tell like the servers, had like 20 piercings and like tattoos and stuff like that. But yeah, it was just really good quality. I remember it. Yeah, I remember it was so good. We went back there a second time. We were only there for like 3 or 4 days. And it was weird because we saw their advertisement like on one of those. If you go to a hotel room, they have that book of like places to see, places to go, kind of thing.
Right.
And they had an advertisement, and my mom was like, "Oh, that looks really good." I'm like, "Yeah, we should find out where that was." And Dad plugged it into the GPS, and we went there. Such is history. Yeah, Morning Glory Cafe, Philadelphia. Check it out, people.
Yeah, I don't. For some reason, it sounds familiar. I don't think I've ever been there, but I think pretty sure I've heard of it before.
Yeah.
Okay. Mine are as follows. So yeah, this is where my mentions of Doug's Fish Fry are. For me, Doug's is all about the scallops.
Oh yeah.
And actually their ice cream.
Oh, how can I forget about that peanut butter puddle, yo?
Yeah, they've got all kinds of fun pre-made sundaes or whatever. Not necessarily just pre-made, but like like itemized, like themed sundaes or whatever. But you can also like, for me, I just like eating their soft serve custard, just getting it plain. I mean, it's the best I've had anywhere. It's fucking amazing.
Well, that's the thing too. Like you can't really get custard in many places.
Yeah.
In Cortland anyway. So.
Yeah, it'd be hard. Yeah. I don't think it's anywhere else in Cortland. It's just
take that to heart, Footies Freeze.
Right. What? Exactly. So yeah, I also had Hattie's chicken on there for mine. Mm-hmm. Specifically the chicken, of course.
Yep.
And my final honorable mention is it belongs on the top 10 list, but because I couldn't really narrow it down to anything specific, I've only been there maybe 2 or 3 times. But there's a place in Syracuse called Postabilities.
Oh yeah.
It's just fucking devastatingly good. It's, to me anyway, it's everything a restaurant should be. Super high quality, scratch made pasta, just a lot of care and everything in their dishes and their whole operation. But the best things that I've had from there that would keep me coming back are their famous spicy tomato oil, which you get as like you can get anyway as like an appetizer. They have they make their own bread called stretch bread, and they give it to you to dip into the oil, and it's just super good.
Nice. And then that's like old world Italian, like get the olive oil, get the bread, dip it in it,
Yeah, it's like that approach, but with like modern presentation and surroundings and everything into it.
Right.
And like I said, all their pasta is homemade, so it's really hard to go wrong with any pasta dish on their menu. So.
Oh yeah, there's a huge difference when it comes to like scratch made or like you buy it in the store. I mean, come on, there's no comparison. But
right.
2.
Those are mine.
Nice. Yeah, I forgot about it. I've never been to Postabilities. I think my mom went there one time. She wasn't really excited about it. I think she got like they just went on a bad night or something, or it might have been like right around the time they opened. So
Yeah.
there might have been some kind of like kink
Well,
in the
it
armor
it
they hadn't
can
fixed
be a
yet. But
really annoying place to go to. Um, it's in Armory Square, so that's kind of annoying to like find parking and stuff anyway.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it's always fucking packed. So
Yeah.
there's always a really tedious wait. Um,
Yep.
but that's probably why I've only been there 2 or 3 times. But
Mm-hmm.
once you finally get in there and have it, at least for me, I tend to forget about all the bullshit leading up to it because it's just that good for me.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where you'll endure
Yeah.
a really long way. I mean, I remember when the Dinosaur Barbecue opened in Troy. I went like the first week it opened, and I had to wait like an hour and 45 minutes to get a table or something like something ridiculous like
Right.
that. And I was like, you know what? I don't care. Like this is the I lived to go there every time we went back home. I went to visit my parents or whatever, and they had one up here. So I was like, yeah, I'll wait for 2 hours if I have to. I don't care. And it basically did. So
Right.
worth every minute of it. And it was a Friday night. Like it wasn't like I was doing anything or something. Cool. Well, that's a very yeah. Some of that stuff I forgot even existed. Like when you mentioned Garcia's, I was like, oh yeah, Garcia's. I remember that place.
I mean, it's weird to me that Garcia's made my list, but not possibilities, because like culinarily, they're nowhere in the same league. But
Oh yeah, no. I mean,
I just I don't know. Those wings are good, and it's so specific. So
yeah. I mean, it's a specific thing that I mean, since we've been kids, we've been like chicken wing fanatics.
yeah,
I remember we went to Tops like that one day just to get their breaded, already made wings that were delicious for some reason. I don't know why that happened,
yeah.
but yeah, they're not like that anymore, probably.
No sir.
Yep, all the standards are just dropping.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
All right.
that's our 10 episode top 10 list to celebrate all things 10, I guess.
10, 10, 10.
So yeah, this has been part 2 of episode 10, and I am your friend Claude.
And I'm the one they call Cousin Adam, or just Adam, whatever you want. It's fine.
And yeah, feel free if you're out there to comment with any favorite places you've been to and the like. Thank you for listening. Happy eating.
Happy eating.
Bye.